Guys, we are on part two of Breakthrough Broker. Please excuse the fact that this has taken a little longer than I expected. Guys, I got completely slammed last week and I didn't have a chance to put out these videos. So I wanted to make sure that we go through this process. So remember, in the first class, we discussed how to go out and actually market for listings, how to gain them, how to get the traction of them using things like door hangers and some of the actual information about the neighborhood that you're going for. Once we've done that, hopefully we've grabbed some information from that web form that we put together. And now what we're going to do is take that web form, throw it into action, and put it forward to move ourselves in the right direction. So now we've had that listing. We've gone through the listing appointment. We've gone through all the process. Now, there are some tools on how to actually gain the listing in this program as well. And to find that, you would go through the marketing information, and there is a bunch of information that actually talks about the listing and buyer presentation. We are not going to discuss that in this training because I'm going to jump into the fact that we've actually picked up the listing, and now how do we put that into action once we've picked up the listing. So what we're going to do today is we're going to lock that up and put that into action. So let's go ahead and do that. As we get into this method, guys, we are going to be using a couple tools for the listing to be successful. The first is going to be the actual information that we're going to be putting out in the marketing that we're doing every single day. So when I go in here, I'm going to simply click on this information. I'm going to grab that information and scroll down to the fact of flyers and brochures. I also want to do some postcards. Okay, and then the other side of the equation is I also want to do some social media. Okay, so to start, we're going to create a listing flyer. I click over to listing flyers, and that brings me into this page. Once I'm here, there are a couple flyers that are in the premium function. This is actually one of the reasons that we had to delay this, is they came out with now Breakthrough Broker Plus, which is a paid feature. Excuse me, a paid feature that allows you to select a little bit higher ended stuff. But then you have, if you scroll down, they have the classic, sharp edges, abstract, polygon, so on and so forth. So they have a bunch of different versions of this actual flyer that you're going to create for the listing itself. Okay, so as always, all you're going to do is grab that information, open it up, and click the Get Started to start to work through and build out this process. Okay, so when you click on Get Started, that information is going to populate into an actual editable dashboard where you can change things like color, details of the listing, pictures of yourself, pictures of the house, and break that down. Now, if you will notice, this does have print lines on it. That's what these little lines are at the bottom. And when you use those print lines, you can actually do what is called a bleed or full bleed print. Now, you can do that on our printer, or you can also do that by printing it through them by clicking on this print pricing and bringing some of those added value. So the truth of the matter is, guys, it compounds to what you are actually trying to do is printing these flyers. Now, there are some local providers as well that will allow you to do that as well. Okay, so you can go through and have it printed locally in order to get some information. Guys, remember, you need to fill out all the details. So you just simply click through and you can edit the details of each of these items. Okay, now once we have this flyer, we want to have this on the house. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's just going to cost me money, cost me time, and what's the value? Those things are just going to get taken and never looked at again. Guys, it is truth in the numbers that the fact that if a person pulls a flyer, they're stimulating that reticulator activator for you, which means that they're going to hopefully think about you come the next solution. Okay, meaning that if they're thinking of buying or if they're thinking of selling, if you present yourself in the best manner possible, then that's going to have its relevance going forward. Now, what does this mean to you? Think about it this simple fashion. A lot of people don't do a lot of stuff for their signs, don't do a lot of stuff for their flyers, don't do a lot of stuff for online. But what it comes down to, guys, is if you think about it, ask yourself, okay, are those the high producing agents or are those the mediocre or low level agents? Ask yourself, those people that are doing the extras, are they seeing more relevancy? Now, is it all coming from flyers? No. Is it all coming from web? No. Is it coming from a culmination of everything? And the answer is, I am sure it is. Now, what are we going to take on to the next category? Okay, so remember, we've created that flyer. Now, what are we going to do? We want to also get in there and actually create some value. So especially for those high-end listings, that stuff that is surplus of 200 plus $1,000. We want to use something that's really valuable. So the printers that we have all have the ability to print on what is called 11 by 17 or brochure paper. Now, let's take into account something like this, a luxury flyer. Now, my suggestion is, and something that I do on every single listing, is I print off something similar to this for every listing that I do. I print it off and I put it on the interior of the house. Now, why do I do that? Personally, I feel that if I can have somebody walk away with a little more collateral from my listing, they're going to have a more effective possibility of thinking about my listing at the end of the day. Let me detail that in a little example. So, person goes and looks at 5 houses, okay? 5 houses they look at today. Of those 5 houses, the first one had no flyer at all, right? Second one had an outside flyer, but it was black and white. Third one had an outside flyer, but it was black and white, and it was just the MLS printed out flyer, nothing substantial. Fourth one had the nice, clean outside brochure, color, nice cardstock, right? When they go to my house, here's what they're going to get. They're going to get a nice color flyer from the exterior of the home. And then when they walk in, they're going to walk away with a nice color brochure of this property. Now, why is that something that's substantial? Because remember, they looked at 5 properties. And while the properties will have some effect on them, what's going to truly have effect on them is going to be what the person takes away from that house and what they remember. Okay, if you give them something of value such as this, what it's going to do is add value to the equation and add value to what they're actually doing. Now, guys, remember, at the end of the day, this is something that's crisp. Remember, I printed off on nice cardstock. I printed off with a nice printer, clean, and it's going to show a lot of value. And then on top of that, I can also get a lot more information in here as well. So I can add additional details, I can add additional photographs, I can show them more about the house. So they go home at the end of the night and they're talking about all the houses that they just saw. They saw the no flyer, they saw the flyer that was black and white, they saw the one that was from the MLS but color, and then they saw the color one that was stood out a little bit. And then they walk with ours. They got an outside flyer, they have an interior brochure, and then on top of that, I give them a packet of information that breaks down the full details of the property, highlighting some major features in the property. So all these things put together, they're walking away with a paperwork, a packet of information for my property. Now, this is beneficial in 2 fashions, and this can go from luxury listings all the way down to the $100,000 listing, because this concept of people forgetting other houses and remembering the ones that they have tangibly in their hands is the difference. All right. So as I mentioned, remember, take a few moments. This takes no time at all. It takes about $15 for a ream of nice cardstock paper that is 11 by 17. It might take some setup on the printer, which I can help you through. But at the end of the day, this now allows you to print out a nice, crisp flyer that allows you to now have major effect on any showings taking place on your property. All right, so now what we're going to is the next part.